Hi Barnes & Noble customers, this is Rick Riordan, and I'm here to read a sneak peek from Chapter 2 of my new book in the Heroes of Olympus series, The Son of Neptune. Percy thrust out his hands. An intense tugging sensation filled his gut, and the Tiber River obeyed his will. The river surged. Whirlpools formed on either side of Frank. Giant watery hands erupted from the stream, copying Percy's movements. The giant hands grabbed the Gorgons, who dropped Frank in surprise. Then the hands lifted the squawking monsters in a liquid vice grip. Percy heard the other kids yelping and backing away, but he stayed focused on his task. He made a smashing gesture with his fists, and the giant hands plunged the Gorgons into the Tiber. The monsters hit bottom and broke into dust. Glittering clouds of Gorgon essence struggled to reform, but the river pulled them apart like a blender. The whirlpools vanished, and the current returned to normal. Percy stood on the riverbank. His clothes and his skin steamed, as if the Tiber's waters had given him an acid bath. He felt exposed, raw, vulnerable. In the middle of the Tiber, Frank stumbled around, looking stunned but perfectly fine. Hazel waded out and helped him ashore. Only then did Percy realize how quiet the other kids had become. Everyone was staring at him. Only the old lady, June, looked unfazed.
"Well, that was a lovely trip," she said. "Thank you, Percy Jackson, for bringing me to Camp Jupiter."
One of the girls made a choking sound. "Percy Jackson?" She sounded as if she recognized his name. Percy focused on her, hoping to see a familiar face. She was obviously a leader. She wore a regal purple cloak over her armor. Her chest was decorated with medals. She must have been about Percy's age, but with dark, piercing eyes and long black hair. Percy didn't recognize her, but the girl stared at him as if she'd seen him in her nightmares. June laughed with delight.
"Oh, yes, you'll have such fun together."
Then, just because the day hadn't been weird enough already, the old lady began to glow and change form. She grew until she was a shining 7-foot-tall goddess in a blue dress with a cloak that looked like goat skin over her shoulders. Her face was stern and stately. In her hand was a staff topped with a lotus flower. If it was possible for the campers to look more stunned, they did. The girl in the purple cloak knelt. The others followed her lead. One kid got down so hastily he almost impaled himself on his sword. Hazel was the first to speak. "Juno." She and Frank also fell to their knees, leaving Percy the only one standing. He knew he should probably kneel too, but after carrying the old lady so far, he didn't feel like showing her that much respect. "Juno, huh?" he said. "If I passed your test, can I have my memory and my life back?" The goddess smiled. "In time, Percy Jackson. If you succeed here at camp. You've done well today, which is a good start. Perhaps there's hope for you yet." She turned to the other kids. "Romans, I present you the son of Neptune. For months he has been slumbering, but now he's awake. His fate is in your hands. The feast of fortune comes quickly, and death must be unleashed if you are to stand any hope in the battle. Do not fail me." Juno shimmered and disappeared. Percy looked at Hazel and Frank for some kind of explanation, but they seemed just as confused as he was. The girl in the purple cloak stepped forward. She examined Percy warily, and Percy couldn't shake the feeling that she wanted to run him through with her dagger. "So," she said coldly, "a son of Neptune, who comes to us with the blessing of Juno." "Look," he said, "my memory's a little fuzzy. It's gone, actually. Do I know you?" The girl hesitated. "I am Reyna, praetor of the 12th Legion, and no, I don't know you." That last part was a lie. Percy could tell from her eyes. But he also understood that if he argued with her about it here, in front of her soldiers, she wouldn't appreciate it. "Hazel," said Reyna, "bring him inside. I want to question him at the Principia. Then we'll send him to Octavian. We must consult the auguries before we decide what to do with him." What do you mean? Percy asked. Decide what to do with me. Raina's hand tightened on her dagger. Obviously, she was not used to having her orders questioned. Before we accept anyone at camp, we must interrogate them and read the auguries. Juno said your fate is in our hands. We have to know if the goddess has brought us a new recruit. Raina studied Percy as if she found that doubtful. Or, she said more hopefully, if she's brought us an enemy to kill. And that's a look at the son of Neptune.